in general, what we take as regulations or compliance is that you have to stick to the rules, right? But then how do you figure out that how can you innovate within this area, or how can you think out of the box when it comes to compliances and regulations?
So I think technology has brought a very interesting paradigm to all our different aspects of our life. I'll come to regulation in just a minute. But if you look at the mere process of buying something, right, retail, you go in, you take something, you pay money, and then you come back. That's a boring activity. But when you look at it in terms of technology, the kind of revolution it's brought in terms of what you do, just go and get a haircut. It's a boring exercise you do every month. But imagine you go in and they tell you, this is how you're going to look with different hairstyles, and that's what it's going to bring in. And then you can choose and spot and say, that's what I want. That brings in an element of coolness to the whole journey. And when you look at that, gives you different data points on how you look like with a different hairstyle, and that's going to work for me or not. So take that paradigm shift and look at it with a view of technology. I'm going to extrapolate a little bit. Matrimonial, typically how it happens in India, you kind of say, I want ABC girl of this kind of parameters, and then there's a horoscope match, and it's a boring prospect. But when you bring technology into it, it does a whole lot of data points, both from, both sides. You have a lot of data points you can play with, and then it's easier to kind of work with it. Same thing with regulation. It is more about what's the kind of data that you use, and how do you kind of make that relevant to me? For instance, in the traditional parlance, before advent of technology, there was still credit monitoring. There was still regulations said, tell me if there's diversion of funds. But most often you reported diversion of funds after the money had left the coop. And then you're still working for years trying to extradite, kind of pass on, figure out where the money went and go after the trail. And that's still regulation, that's still compliance. Whereas if you can in real time, as soon as you set up a beneficiary, go into the realm of all the public data that's available, figure out if they're in one of the blacklisted companies, have they been frequently management audited? What are people talking about this company? Have the directors dumped shares? Or have they had frequent change of directors? And then you have an alerting mechanism that says something based on the pattern tells me with a great degree of certainty that this is a diversion that's about to happen, and you can stop that. That's when things get exciting. So I think it's more about what technology is done in terms of the data it processes, in terms of the rules it adapts to, and in terms of the algorithms it uses, and in terms of the probability of the occurrence happening, and the kind of reporting you can do in real time. So that's what brings the excitement element to this whole thing.